Welcome to NGH Washington chapter. My name is Barbara Decker, and I've been around this world for a long time. I I am here to speak to you with a reasonably new method in the United States. It's called SleepTalk. And I'll get it into the ins and the outs of SleepTalk after I tell you how I ended up being where I am. I had my first son. We were in the Navy. I had my first son in an outlying hospital in Florida, and I was having my first child, and I wanted to do natural childbirth. And the doctor said, "Oh dear, you can't do natural childbirth, Lamaze, with your first baby. No, you're going to need some help." So I believed him. I didn't have there were no classes. That was 54 years ago. And so as I went in labor, I was pretty uncomfortable, and I didn't know how to relax, and I didn't have any breathing techniques. So I took the pain meds, and they shut off my heart and lungs. So 11 hours later, I woke up to hold my baby, not knowing anything that happened during those 11 hours. And it was a medication that is no longer used by medicine, but that was good medicine back then. And so when I was having my second child, they said, "Lady, you better take some childbirth classes so you know how to huff and puff and breathe and so forth to get through your labor with your next child, because we can't give you anything, even for your stitches." So when I was, again, another place, it was Portsmouth Naval Hospital. It was ASPO, Association of Psychoprophylaxis in Obstetrics, which was the original Lamaze. So I huffed my pus, I practiced, and the labor was like night and day between the two children. And I'm on my way down to the delivery room going, "I hope it's a girl. I hope it's a girl." It was a boy. I kept him. But I was certainly not uncomfortable. And it was like night and day between the two. So I've been a childbirth educator. I called my teacher and I said, "I have to be a childbirth educator. Nobody should ever go through labor because of, without any classes." So that's been my role since Mark was born. Actually, it was Peter in 71. So I've been teaching 50 years childbirth education. And through childbirth education, I met our wonderful Penny Simpkin, who is the guru of doulas. Those are labor support people. And she came to Massachusetts, and I took her course, and I was floating on water because I said, "Oh, I've been doing this in the Navy, going in with the wives all the time, but now I have a name for it, and I can legally go up to the floor." So I became a doula, and I've been a doula for 30 years until I just retired last year. And so after I became a doula, at one of the doula conferences, I met Phyllis Klaus, who is a psychotherapist. And she is the wife of Dr. Marshall Klaus, who was one of the pediatricians that learned how important it was for mothers to be with their babies in the NICU. He and John Connell would sneak the parents into the NICU, take them out of the incubators, and put them on the mother's chest, and the babies regulated immediately. They needed the touch, they needed the mother's heartbeat, so forth. So these are the people that I am part of now, who believe that moms and babies should never be separated after their births. They belong together just like every mammal in nature. So my life has, even though I was a phlebotomist, a medical assistant, so I come from a medical background, that paid for food on the table, but my labor of love was always there in childbirth. So because of the lecture that Phyllis gave us at that doula conference, it was on hypnosis for birth. I'd never been exposed to hypnosis before, and I could not believe the power of it. I was weeping for the rest of the weekend because she took me back to a place that I hadn't thought of in 35 years. Safest place I've ever been. I could see all the walls and every room, the furniture, the smells, everything. And I just was weepy the rest of the weekend. So I thought, oh, this is powerful. I've got to get into this. So I became a hypnobirthing practitioner. And when I became a hypnobirthing practitioner, I read The Secret Life of the Unborn Child by Thomas Verney, who was a psychiatrist. And I got mad. And I I've been teaching Lamaze for all these years, and they don't talk anything about mother and baby bonding in the womb. So that was the beginning of that journey. And I became involved with APA, which is the Association of Pre and Perinatal Psychology. And that is my home now, along with hypnobirthing. So through hypnobirthing, Mickey Mongan always encouraged us to become hypnotherapists. From the training, hypnobirthing is made up of tools that are used throughout the hypnosis field. And she put them into a modality for birthing. So the outcomes of the parents when I started teaching hypnobirthing, I can't teach regular childbirth classes anymore. I can't go that route because I feel like they're leading them like lemmings off the cliff. With hypnobirthing, it's a total mindset of building a family, bonding the baby with the mother, and getting through your labor in a reasonably comfortable state, a lot more comfortable than most people expect. So the hypnotherapy came, and then I had the fortune through the Association of Pre and Perinatal Psychology to meet Dr. Schrott from Germany, who was a psychoanalyst, and he was trying to get people interested in a training course called prenatal bonding analysis. And bonding analysis, I don't think he realizes he's actually doing hypnosis. But the point is, we take extensive history on our families. We talk about generational, intergenerational stress, and lots of knowledge, all about how a mother is influenced by the way that her mother and her mother's mother and so forth. So the family constellations, the family situation. So I had the fortune of taking that training. It was 2.5 years. And I'm now one of the teachers, going to be one of the first team in the United States to be teaching people this method. And so Gerhard, being a psychoanalyst, he's very demanding on the histories and so forth, but we only have a 2% postpartum depression when people do prenatal bonding. Less than 2% postpartum depression because they're bonding. Most people don't realize that postpartum depression actually starts when they're pregnant, and engaging them with the love with the baby in the womb. They just don't have postpartum depression. So it needs to be looked at by science, research, and we are doing research. So I met, interestingly enough, at one of the hypnobirthing conferences. This lovely lady, Joane Goulding, happened to be at the hypnobirthing conference because she works with children using hypnosis while they're sleeping. So that's why I'm here today, to pass on some of the knowledge of why I decided to also get certified in this particular program. Because it fits. It's hypnosis, it's I've always been in that prenatal period, pregnancy, postpartum period. Some of my moms have another child. And oftentimes that other child is jealous of the new baby coming into the world. So Joanne and I spoke at that conference, and she said, Barb, you're doing the same thing I'm doing, but you're doing it with the baby in the womb. I'm doing it while the children are asleep. So we have been friends ever since that particular situation. So I started doing it with all my second-time moms. I have them build self-esteem for the child that is having to face a new baby, so they don't go through the jealousy state. So the story behind Joane is she was a hypnotherapist for many, many years. And she moved from England to Australia. She had two daughters. The first one was extremely slow, very slow. She didn't crawl till she was 2 or 3. She didn't walk till she was a couple of years later than that. And she cried. She looked for help, psychologists, psychiatrists. One told her, oh, you're a bad mother, go to work, get a nanny, bring up your kid. Somebody else said, no, stay home, take care of your kid, and so forth. So she was getting all of these different stories, why this child was so slow. The child was just plain slow. And what happened from that is that Joanne would get frustrated with her because she wouldn't listen to her. She wouldn't do anything she asked her to do. So when the child went to first grade, she started beating everybody up. And so the school said, there's something wrong with this child. Joanne said, I know, I've been looking for help for years. They diagnosed her with cerebral palsy with an IQ of 45. So this child didn't know what her mother was asking her to do because she was absolutely incapable of doing anything. So the first thing Joanne did was she went in the other room and she cried her eyes out for being angry with the child who had no idea what she was able to do. And they said she'll need to be institutionalized. So she was divorced from her first husband, and her second husband was also a hypnotherapist. And they decided that I just wonder, we need to get her into a state of, where she can access the subconscious. I wonder if we could make any improvement in her situation. So they made up these scripts. And they started with love. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. You are lovable. Today is a good day. And they did it every night. About 30 to 45 minutes after she went to sleep, she would go in the room. She'd touch the child until she moved to her. She was in alpha theta state. She could put in the suggestions. And after about 3 months, she said to her daughter, well, how are you this morning? And part of the script is, today is a good day. She said, oh, today is a good day. And Joanne and her husband looked at each other and they said, oh my God, it's working. So they continued to pursue. Her self-esteem started to get better. She was less angry. Then they used the same script and they added other words to it on top of the basic self-esteem situation, so that I wondered if behavior would change. She started to settle down. She made great strides. She actually was able to go to a daycare. She learned how to knit. She can make scrambled eggs. And she's married to another disabled man. And this is all from the work that Joane did. So they had developed a program called SleepTalk. So they worked on it. They went deeper into just the right scripts. And so they have passed this around all over the world. There are consultants all over the world. And they're being trained to work with children after they've gone to sleep at night. So the opportunity for all of you to become a consultant is there. I'm a firm believer in it. We need more consultants. The latest work that Joane is doing is she's starting to move into the adult realm with ADHD, trying to see if there's any movement in people with ADHD to settle their nervous system. So that's her latest thing. But you had from your handout this information on what the program includes, how she has made use. She's very famous. Any of you that saw Roy over at the conference, he had known him, and he knows her well. And who was the character that was from England? What's his name? Carl, he said, I know Joane too. A lot of people know Joane, and Roy said she actually saved the field of hypnosis in Australia. She's very well known in Australia. So her program, the way she helps people understand it and teaches the families, she has her book. Families can actually buy. She has a book, so a parent can just buy it without going to a consultant and learn the basics of how to work with the child when they're asleep. And this is her basic script that I'll read to you in just a minute. And so, as I say, I have done this with my second-time moms, with the older child, and how many children? They have to do it with every single child. So separate bedrooms, you got to do it with each child. Only takes 2 minutes a night per child, but you walk into the room speaking, you touch them, alpha, theta state, walk out of the room speaking, and you just do it every night over a period of time. And it takes 6 weeks to 3 months to really notice a change. So you start out doing an interview with the parents. What is the child like now? And it goes into eating habits, school habits, sports habits, really specific things to watch for. And then it has a level: 4, good, okay, excellent. You give them a score. And then, so you call them after the first week and see if anything's changed. And then you follow up every couple of weeks to see if there's any change. And you mark each of the sheets for where the improvement is. The parents notice the difference. And the way she explains it is really kind of fascinating. Because in your booklet there, it shows Joane's picture, but you just touch the child on the forehead or the back of the head, depending on the way that they're sleeping, just to arouse them. And what she's teaching the parent is we have a hat protecting us with our minds. We have our conscious mind, which is the hat. And she explains to them, you're going to take off the hat and you're going to put in your secret little words. And then, and the subconscious comes up, listens to the words. And then before you leave the room, the hat comes back on again, so that a parent can understand very simply how the system works. And psychology as such has said, it's too simple. Too simple. Well, they did a research project with a very bad fire that happened in Australia. They had acres and the whole town was burned to the ground. And they split up the families between regular therapy, talk therapy, and one other type of therapy. And then they let Joane handle a number of families. Guess which children turned out to be healthier in a shorter length of time? It was Joane's group using the SleepTalk, getting over their trauma by building the self-esteem that I don't know what the script is that she used, but everything was written specifically for them. So it's powerful, powerful work. Now, I can't guarantee, I mean, her research takes it up to the age of 17. She feels that it works right into the teenage years. But that's all the research. She hasn't researched beyond that. So I can't guarantee that in the middle of the night, you say, I want that diamond bracelet for Christmas. So we can't say it works that way. But the whole concept, we can understand because we're going through the critical mind into the subconscious, planting the seeds, starting with self-esteem. And what all of us need? Self-esteem. So she has put all these beautiful tools together to accomplish this wonderful, there's no side effects, none. You can't do it wrong. And everything from it is going to give these children a chance to move ahead. So that's what SleepTalk is all about. And guess who is one of the instructors of the SleepTalk in the United States? Larry Ellman's wife. Now, we all know the name Larry Ellman because his father is the famous one that does our getting our clients into a relaxation state. That was Larry's father. And so I went to one of the trainings at the Ellman's home in North Carolina. That was one of the steps. So there's a number of steps. You get to the first level, which is just the self-esteem one. Then you get to a second level where you start getting into the wording for writing behavioral scripts. And then there's a third level that also goes into concepts of nutrition for changing the psyche. So one thing that I really wanted to bring up and notice beyond SleepTalk, when I heard the introductions for many of you that are here for this talk today, Dr. Thomas Burney is a psychiatrist, and David Chamberlain was a psychologist, and they did not see regressions of their patients back to the womb until they had taken hypnosis training. That was the key for Thomas and David. They never thought a baby could remember, an adult could remember back to their experience in the womb. And so they did a research project. Individuals would come with an emotional problem. They, during regression, as they went back, without even being invited into the womb, they automatically went back to the womb. And they came up with these stories that they remembered from being in the womb. And so David and Thomas met at one of the APA conferences. And they said, how can this be? How can this be? So they had their clients go back to their families And they asked them, what happened during the pregnancy? What happened during my birthing? And the stories were correlated. So they wrote down everything and they approached the APA and they laughed at them. And so they said, okay, we'll start our own organization, which is the Association of Pre and Perinatal Psychology. So that's where my training, my love, my support comes from. Wonderful practitioners that believe in this work. And every one of us, David's comment is, every person went to that classroom. You were in that womb to be born. And you became that epigenetic experience from the classroom and the womb, that birth, and before 3 years old. So psychology, so far behind, thinking there's no memory before 3 years old, which is garbage, because it's a different type of memory that they didn't understand. It's an implicit memory. Implicit is pre-verbal. So how do you get memories pre-verbal out of your body? Even Thomas Burney admits, as a psychiatrist, all the years he's been teaching psychiatry, I've only been doing half of the healing for a person to get well. And his latest book is called The Embodied Mind, where every cell remembers as that child is growing in the womb, cell by cell by cell, has the cellular memory of the implicit memory of what they experienced within the womb and the birthing experience, and then actually 9 months after the birth is where you get the full emotional regulation to be stable. So those of you that are doing hypnosis and Reiki, tapping, anything that can release from the body, you're doing much better than anybody that's just doing hypnotherapy. Talk therapy does not heal the patient. They have to feel it. They have to feel it in their cells. They need to feel it in their body and release it through their body. So Reiki, EFT, any massage, so many modalities. You have to help the body express it. So there you have it. You have one more tool with an interest possibly in SleepTalk. I'd love to see more people interested, because Joanne would love to have more consultants in the United States. They're all over the world, Switzerland, Europe, Russia, they're all over the world, Asia. But we don't have many in the United States. So there's a beautiful door to open there. And I'm sure there's tremendous research to be done on more than children and more benefits to children.
Is that script right there that you pulled out with the, does that say some of the words? Is that a script?
So I have the script right here.
Yeah, can you just read it? I mean, would that be okay?
Sure, absolutely. You walk into the room, stay asleep, stay asleep. Then you do your touch. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. We all love you. You are lovable. Today is a happy day. And you say it 5 times in a row. And then as you walk out of the room, deep asleep, happy dreams, waking up bright and happy. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. We all love you. You are lovable every day, in every way. It gets better.
You get so, I have so, yeah.
So thank you, Joane Goulding. I'm so thankful I met her at that conference and had the opportunity to learn about this wonderful training.
Thank you, Barbara, thank you so much. I'm going to turn off the recording because questions that we translate that what I'm trying to do.
How did I do on time?
Oh, perfect. Everything you do is perfect, dear.
Oh.